Over the past few weeks, GBH News has been bringing you stories of people who are making big changes in their lives as a result of the pandemic. In our news series, The Big Quit, most are everyday people who've been reevaluating how they want to live and what makes them happy. And while some may think the best of the best in their industries are immune to all this, it's time to think again. Because among those taking a long, hard look at the career in which he spent decades working his way to the top is the man who first brought us Craigie Street Bistro, which went on to become Craigie on Main, the James Beard Award-winning chef Tony Maws. Nearly 2 months ago, he closed up for what he then called a pause to think about what's next and spend some much-needed time with our families and friends. And now, one of my favorite restaurants of them all is up for sale for $500,000. If only my culinary skills extended beyond boiling water, I might consider trying to get in on that myself, but won't. Tony Maws joins me now. Hey there, Tony.
Hey, how are you? You're too smart to try your hand at this thing, you know.
That's what you think. So Craigie on Main is no more. Why?
Well, I mean, I wish there was one simple answer because I would be able to justify it to myself. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's been decades in the making, and we were so fortunate. I mean, the entity of Craigie is almost 20 years old at this point. So, I think there are a couple different bullet points that we could talk about. Some of them are just personal time and reflection and thinking about what's really important to me at this point in my life with my family and things like that. And I think a lot of us are, in all industries are taking a good hard look at what's important. But I mean, there are some nuts and bolts of the restaurant industry that have been, it's always been a challenging thing, but we saw things even pre-COVID that were making the formula, I think complicated would be the polite word. And then, everything was just exacerbated, but we've got a labor issue that we read about. We've got a housing issue that we read about. We got a transportation issue, which, people need to get to work and restaurant hours are tough. And, Boston is a really tricky city right now to live in.
So it sort of sounds like you're intimating, correct me if I'm wrong, that the business could have survived, but you couldn't have survived in it the way it is. Is that a fair statement?
I think you just summed it up perfectly, Jim. We look, there are people there are restaurants that we've all had a really challenging time. And there are some people that had financial woes that caused them to close their doors. The way we solved that problem was to, unfortunately, like a lot of places, we had to furlough our staff, and those of us that remained, we worked around the clock, and that's how we made it happen. I don't know if I say this with pride or almost some sense of remorse. Like financially, that wasn't the issue for us, but the way we had to do business, the amount that we had to ask of ourselves and our teams to be able to pull it off day in and day out was just not. People use the word sustainable, and sometimes I don't even know what that means at this point, but let's just put it this way. We all hit a wall, and it wasn't going to be able to continue that way. And I don't have a magic wand or a magic 8-ball to look into the future and think about, wow, what immediately is going to get solved? And I don't know what that is.
I know you know a ton of your colleagues in the industry, and I'm guessing that a lot of them are, even if they haven't made the same move you have, they're feeling what you're feeling. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I am in constant communication with, my dear friends and peers, and, everyone has their own version of the story. But it's a complicated one, and everyone's feeling it in their own way.
I want to seize on something you said a minute ago, Tony. I'm putting words in your mouth. This is not a pandemic casualty. I was reading an interview with you in the Boston Globe in 2019 before the pandemic. You said almost the exact same things. You're talking about labor issues, that millennials don't want to work 12 hours a day for 10 years to find their place. You said that public transportation was god-awful, that housing was unaffordable. So pandemic or no, these are symptoms of a real disease that it seems to me the restaurant industry and beyond's got to solve for your peers to survive, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've built, we've all seen the growth within the Metro Boston area. Tons of buildings have gone up. Retail is pretty much dead. So on the first floors, everyone want to put in restaurants. So we've got more restaurants, which means a need for more jobs, more labor. We The housing market's crazy. You can't afford to live in a place like Cambridge unless you're making six figures. So they have to come from someplace else. But the transportation's awful. So how do you get here? And you put all these things together. Obviously, some businesses have, different models where they can figure it out. A place like Craigie on Main that required a tremendous amount of staff to pull off, what we were trying to do. It became near impossible to do that. We certainly looked ourselves in the mirror and thought long and hard about ways that we could do it differently. At the end of the day, for us, what people expected out of Craigie on Main, I just never could find a formula that I thought was going to work. And even things that we thought about doing differently. I think it was clear to us. I mean, look, partly we just got burned out, trying.
But it seems to me from reading your thoughts from 2019 and talking to you tonight, there's no amount of doing differently you or your colleagues can do to solve the larger problems. It seems this is yet another circumstance where government has got to do more than just bail restaurants out of a crisis, but sort of focus on the bigger picture, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think there's a few cities in the nation that are feeling this, and it's Boston. I mean, obviously this is our home and we care deeply about it, but we're seeing similar things with our friends in Seattle and San Francisco, where, the places where the urban real estate has become so crazy. And I don't know what the solution is if our local government isn't willing to tackle that problem. I mean, we've been reading about, the MBTA's issues for years, and the housing market, it's great if you're a landlord, but it's not great if you're a service level employee who wants to live close to your work and your work happens to be in Boston or Cambridge or something like that.
I know how sincere a person you are, but when someone is as good as you are at what you do, when I read it, I think this quote was in the Globe. It was somewhere. I don't know where the hell it was, wherever it was. As much as I love cooking for people, you said, I don't have to do it for the rest of my life. I believe you when you say it, but you got to say to yourself, I'm really good at this. People really like what I do. I've heard you say a million times in person and in print, I love cooking for people. So how do you do this?
This is the question I'm asking myself right now. It's funny. I even, was on a walk with my son. He's 13 years old. And I asked him, just like, I'm looking for answers anywhere. Cooking is in my bones. Cooking is absolutely in my bones. And the thought of not making people happy through food is, I don't have an answer, and I'm certainly not going to get used to that anytime soon. So I'm not prepared to say that I'm done, but I am prepared to say that it's also not worth causing irreparable harm to either myself or my team. And we were all feeling it, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So, at some point you got to be able to step back. And I sincerely hope there's a way that I can find a way to, get behind a stove in some way, shape, or form. I just think that the Craigie on Main, as we all knew it and we all loved, that part's not coming back, and it saddens me to say that because we had a really great run. We were really fortunate. We made some people happy, and I know it's going to be missed. But I'm 51 years old, and I got to think about, what's best for those who've also been the most supportive to me and who've also, they're the ones who have bent a lot over the years to enable me to do what I do. And now it's time to make sure that they're happy too.
I admire you for being able to make such a decision. Lots of luck, Tony, and I hope you are on the other side of a stove sometime soon. Good to see you, and best of luck in the future.
Well, I promise you'll be eating some food that I cooked one way or another. So thank you.
Tony, be well.